Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing something a little bit different, and this is going to be something that I'm going to have you guys kind of work with me along the way to kind of, fine tweak the format, and that is reviews of TV shows and movies. Now, one of the things we do, kind of a staple here on the channel, is of course reactions, right? Now, I can't really do reactions to full movies or TV shows. I mean, some people do it and they find, editing ways to do it. I don't have really the time to do that. I'll be quite honest with you. And most of the time I watch these things with my family, with my wife or wife and son, depending on, what we're watching. So I would like to do kind of just sort of discussion type reviews, see how you guys feel about that. And you guys, like I said, can give some feedback down in the comments below. Today, I want to talk about the Terminal List. Now, we had never really been subscribed to Amazon Prime. We had a free trial. We watched the first couple episodes. Our trial ended. We decided to pay for another month because we wanted to finish watching the Terminal List. Now, I'm going to try my very best to not go into really spoiler territory, at least off the top. If I go into spoiler territory, it's going to be a little bit later in the video, and I don't want to make this too long. So I want to kind of just condense my thoughts. It's going to be off the top of my head. It's going to be kind of just more of discussion-based sort of thing. Let me know how you guys feel about that format. Like I said, we could tweak things along the way. So, Terminal List. Episode 1, without getting into any spoilers, it doesn't hold back any punches. It starts off with this big action sequence, and this specific action sequence, a lot of things go wrong, a lot of things happen that keep you on the edge of your seat. And then once the kind of episode progresses, we see something very horrible happen. Again, I'm trying to avoid big spoilers. That it is kind of the sort of thing that you would not expect to see at the beginning of a series, but it sets the tone for the entire rest of the series. It's kind of the whole premise of the series, so it has to happen. I just wasn't expecting it to happen. Now, is that a bad thing? No, not at all. I think that my favorite shows, my favorite movies are ones that make me feel something. If it can get me emotional in any way, it can make me feel sad, it can make me feel suspenseful, then in my opinion, it's done a good job and the story was written well. The thing about the Terminal List, it does just that for at least for me. You got to keep this in mind at the end of the day. This is my review. This is how it affected me. This is my thoughts, my perception, my opinion on the show. This is not going to be everybody's opinion, right? Someone may love something, the other person may hate it, and someone else may be somewhere in the middle. So everything with this kind of thing is always subjective. You got to keep that in mind. That said, I really did enjoy seeing how the story then unfolded. It kind of becomes more of a sort of revenge quest, if you will. But there's some pretty crazy stuff that's kind of underlying everything that's going on beneath the surface, where you see things go a lot deeper than you actually think. Things are there's a lot of deep corruption going on that starts to unfold. And just the way the story is kind of made is you don't really know where the line is between, okay, is it just sort of like a corrupted organization, or is this character just actually insane and losing their mind? And you're kind of left wondering between those two things, and you're not really sure for the most of it. Like I said, there is a level of corruption in that seems to be suggested and seems to be going on, but you're constantly asking the question, you're kind of towing the line, and you're just kind of along for the ride, seeing how this kind of unfolds. And as it unfolds, you kind of see how it goes. Now, that said, one thing I do kind of enjoy about this story and the way it was kind of I guess laid out for you is there's sort of a psychologic aspect to it. Now, those of you guys who've been around this channel for a while, you may know that I always talk about my gaming channels, right? I'm a huge gamer, those are my main channels. The reason I bring that up is because there's one specific game called Hellblade, and it kind of toys with that whole topic, right, of someone having a psychological break, and that's what this show kind of seems to toy with as well, is that it's like this character is on this line of, you don't know how deep their psychological break is actually, I guess how deep it goes, because again, it's one of those things where it's like you're trying to distinguish from what's just going on in his head versus what is the truth and what is reality. And I think that is a huge part of what keeps you, it keeps you engaged, keeps you locked through the entirety of the series, and it's just very, very well done. Now, I will say, I gotta say this in and of itself. Of course, the main actor is Chris Pratt, who plays James Reese, and I just gotta say off the top that I think this is some of his best acting ever. I mean, I loved him in Guardians and some of his other work, but you know, in The Terminal List, it was just next level. It was really, really good. His acting was above and beyond. He absolutely crushed it, in my opinion. Like I said, this is an opinion thing. It's all subjective, right? So at the end of the day, what I think may not be what you think, but what I think is that this is some of Chris Pratt's best acting, and it was absolutely phenomenal. He nailed it. He crushed it, and he really took you along for the ride that James Reese was going on. Now, all glad to say, once we get to the end, I mean, it's kind of in the title, right? The Terminal List. He's going through a list, right? He's going through a list of, like I said, it's more of a revenge story. He's going through a list of kind of like a hit list, if you will, right? Of people he believes are involved in some kind of corrupted thing going on. Is he right? Is he wrong? Well, we're not going to say that right now to avoid spoilers. All that said, it's the final person on the list is it kind of gives you a little bit of a twist. I will say that. I'll just leave it at that. I won't say more than that. It gives you a little bit of a twist that kind of throws a little bit of a curveball at you, and you're like, whoa. You're like, whoa. And you don't know, is he going to follow through with the final name on the list because of this twist? That's all I'm going to say. Leave it at that. At this point, I do want to go into a little bit of spoilers because there are some things I just want to blatantly just lay out there. I mean, I'm like full spoilers, okay? Full spoilers. This is only for the people who have either watched the show or who really don't care about having like just the whole thing spoiled for them. So if you're still here, I'm assuming that you don't care about full spoilers. Okay. All right. Let's move on from that. So I do got to say that, just going into a little bit of details, what I was talking about is the fact that the whole revenge thing is based on his family, his wife and his daughter. Now, this could be because I'm also a husband and a father, but this specifically and especially gripped me as a husband and father, in seeing that, you know, if you've seen that he comes home, he finds his wife and daughter murdered, and it really puts you in that mindset that if that happened to you, I mean, how would you feel, right? And there's kind of that line, right? There is that line that some stories go take it the other way, and they go down kind of more of the forgiveness route. This one just goes to, you know, he wants to avenge his family, right? There's something that he believes shady going on. And like I said, it unravels and you see that is the case. There is a lot of corruption going on, and he's not wrong about that. And his list becomes bigger and bigger and bigger as time goes on. And one by one, he knocks out everybody that was in this whole kind of conspiracy. And it's just madness. To see this kind of corruption. Now, that said, it's not the kind of corruption that you would think is far-fetched, right? It's something that like is plausible. The whole thing is a medication that they were testing on these soldiers, and things went wrong, gave them brain tumors, and that's kind of the whole thing that's messing with his psychological aspect. Plus the fact that he's been through some pretty traumatic events. I mean, the first thing that happens is his whole crew gets wiped out, and he's the only one that survives. And the only guy that actually did survive was framed as a suicide when obviously it was a homicide. And then of course his wife and his daughter. So it's just craziness from the gate. But it's all plausible stuff. And the other thing that they really focused on is being very true to the whole kind of military culture, if you will, right? They really wanted this to be something that anybody who has served can watch, and they could appreciate and show that there's a lot of care going into the details of just again, military culture, if you will, for lack of a better phrase or lack of a better word. I'm not really drawing a blank on what proper word or phrase to use for that. So it's just very, very well done, in my opinion. I think it was phenomenal. And then the final list, of course, is the final person on the list is someone who's very close and dear to him, who didn't have any play, thankfully, in his wife and daughter's death, but did have a play in the whole setup, the ambush that the whole thing starts out with. And his reasoning was because he wanted him to die in his boots rather than die in a hospital bed, knowing that he had a tumor. So there's kind of like this divisive thing right there where it's like, is he gonna finish the list and shoot his friend or not? You hear gunfire go off, you actually don't see the death, so could he have just maybe spared him, and we'll find out maybe in a season 2. I don't know, maybe he's not actually dead, but suggesting that he is dead, it's kind of like, okay, at this point I think that one could have been forgiven. Out of all of these ones, I think that one could have been forgiven, but again, that's just my opinion, that's just my thoughts. I'll leave it with one last thing. It's not really spoilery, but this is kind of more of a personal thing. One of the things that I hate the most in kind of movies and TV shows is any use of God's name in vain. I'm a Christian, and that's the one thing I really, really don't like. I can make do with some coarse language and things like that. I much rather hear that. Uses of God's name in vain, I'm not a fan of, and that's one thing that did bother me throughout this series, and typically bothers me in a lot of things, and thankfully I can't remember how much it was used. I think it wasn't as bad as a lot of other shows and movies, thankfully. I think it was still on the minimum, but it was still enough to be like, dude, come on, man, there's no need for that. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that did bother me. There is one scene that we personally skipped. Again, the second thing that I don't like in movies and TV shows is things like nudity and things like that. We try to avoid that kind of thing. Like I said, a lot of people don't care. That's something that a lot of people still do care about. So there is one scene, it's like in a club scene. It's very brief and you could just skip through it. You kind of know when it's happening, right? I mean, at the very beginning you kind of see it's like kind of like a red aesthetic, and so if that is something you want to skip, you can skip it if you're like us and you just want to kind of skim through that part. So besides that, there's not really any kind of sexually suggestive themes within the show, except that one brief scene that is very skippable. So those are just kind of a couple little things to mention for anyone else that is maybe like-minded that would like to skip through those kind of things, or maybe if that's something that causes you to avoid watching these kind of shows or movies altogether, then keep that in mind. That is in there, and of course there is some obviously coarse language as well beyond that. So I think that's it. I think I covered everything. That's just kind of my brief little review of the Terminal List. Again, I think it's a great show overall. Besides, like I said, the gripes that I have with with the uses of God's name in vain, stuff like that, just basing it off the story itself and how the story is presented and how it unraveled, I think it's a solid 9.5 out of 10 personally. I think it was really good. I really enjoyed it, and I hope they make a season 2. And like I said, Chris Pratt absolutely knocked it out of the park acting as James Reese. So let me know if you've watched it. What do you think down in the comments below? Stick around for more reactions, reviews, all of this pop culture nerdy stuff and all that great stuff here on the channel as well. I'll see you guys soon. Another one. Stay safe, stay well. Still don't have an outro, so I'll see you guys later.